Well, this is an exciting day. I've got a great friend of mine, Joe Canavan. My name is Alan McLaren. I am the co-founder of STRATA Originals. On this podcast, we interview, well, as the word says, originals. As the name implied, originals are people that can stand out by giving us the lessons and stories that they share to help us all grow as leaders and as humans. Joe's been in the financial services market, and he won't say this, but he's kind of a legend. And I won't say it, but I just did. But he's a legend in the financial markets, and he's really done so much. He's been in the startup community, he's been a chief executive, he's been a chairman, he's been an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and angel investor now. And so, Joe, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Welcome to Strata Originals.
Thank you, my friend. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Before we start, I want to thank you on a personal note. And this is a leadership thing that I'm talking about. You were the chapter chair and learning officer in the last 2 years at our local chapter. And I want to thank you publicly for the amazing job that you did to help the chapter arguably turn around and get it on the right footing. You did a great job in leadership and you pulled together, which is what leadership's all about, an amazing team to carry it forward. So, Joe, thank you for that. And I will ask you about your lessons learned at the end of this.
Thank you.
Cool. Um, so we start with an icebreaker. Always start with an icebreaker, kind of the YPO world. So, as you know, trust is fundamental in all business dealings, but especially in the investment world. How have you built trust both personally and professionally in the businesses you both developed and managed?
Um, I'm a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, and I'm as honest as anyone you'll ever meet. So I always start from a position of honesty and integrity. When I'm building teams, that is very much imbued in our culture. I can't live otherwise. I don't do well in an environment where that is lacking or it's missing. And I've been in that environment prior to being a CEO. And I always promise myself that if given the opportunity to ever lead an organization, these were the lessons that I've learned from this individual and how they might be doing it wrong in my estimation, and how I could do it better, as I say, if I were ever given that responsibility. So it's always been a leading tenet of mine.
Where did that come from, Joe? Was that parents? Was that upbringing? Tell me about where that value came from.
Um, I think for me it's innate. I share very openly. I'm a great um, I empower people and I hire the best of the best. I hire people that are so damn good in every category of responsibility in my organizations. They're superstars. And some of them are so good and so humble, they don't know how good they are. And so when I lead, I don't lead from knowledge, I lead from empowerment. So I build teams where my chief legal officer is a superstar, and I'm like, okay, Jamie, I'm going to empower you, and my CFO and my chief marketing officer, and we basically come together. We create a vision board. We have a mission. We have a strategy. We have the tactical application of that strategy, and we all agree on what the objective is, what the goal is, what the timeline is, and then I just get a hell out of the way. I'm just like, okay, I allocate resources, I let people go, and I'm like, come back and let me know how it's going. And it's a different way of leading, but for me, it's the very best way of leading because you're really at that point, you're guiding, you're coaching, you're empowering, you're enabling, as opposed to telling and being in people's faces. And if you're going to hire the best of the best, don't get in their way. Don't tell Connor McDavid, how to take a slap shot. I mean, just let him do his thing. And so for me, that's always been the way that I've led. And I also lead by example. I don't ask anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So people see that as an indication that this guy isn't, being that dictatorial leader and making us do the things that he would never do. Like I'm in the kitchen cleaning the dishes when there's a mess and somebody forgot to clean up. I mean, there's nothing that is beneath me in a leadership role, and I think people see that.
Hopefully you're like that at your home too, so that your wife doesn't get mad
100%.
in the dishes.
Nope. No, I carry that through every aspect of my life. So you're absolutely right to point that out. And she would be the first to tell you that if she's cooking, I'm cleaning. And if I'm cooking, she's cleaning. So actually, if I'm cooking, sometimes I'm cleaning too. Hopefully she doesn't watch this because then she'll get mad
She's gonna watch it. I'm gonna make her watch.
at me.
You know what's fun though? When we stay on the topic of leadership, oftentimes the leaders that I've worked with think they have to be a different person when they're in their YPO role or their family role or their CEO role. You seem to have nailed the authenticity piece, which is I am who I am. Has that served you well in your life to just be Joe, no matter if you're talking to a prime minister or talking to the cleaner?
100%. People always know what they're getting. And I there was a period of my time where in my life where I might have gotten a little intimidated by people that I saw as kind of that other group, and they had achieved a level of success, and I didn't really have the ability to build that bridge without fumbling and stumbling.
Yeah.
When I started to see every interaction as just a pure expression of energy between two human beings, then it didn't matter if they were a rock star or if they were a leader in the community or a prime minister. Didn't really ever start to matter for me. At that point, it was really just one human being to another, and it was real. It was authentic, which was the word that you just used. And that made it very easy for me. And as a result, it disarms people quickly. Like when you meet somebody for the first time, and you have no airs about you, you're just somebody that really cares deeply about them and what they're going through or their history. Um, it changes the complexion of the conversation. The walls that might otherwise be up go down immediately, and then it's real much more quickly. And that's what I'm trying to get to with anybody, because you only have so many minutes with a person, with an individual. And in our experience just the other night when we had a couple rock stars for our event,
Yeah.
I was in the green room with them and immediately went to disarming mode, engagement on things that were relatable for all of us. And it just changed the whole dynamic. It changed then how they were on stage. It changed, like when I saw them the next night at another event, because it became very real. And as opposed to, I'm a fan, they're an artist or a persona. It was very real. And I want that connection, and I want that on all levels. I want that, at a cocktail party.
Yeah.
If you can connect with somebody very, very quickly at an energetic level, um, it becomes very personal as opposed to it's all business or it's all about trying to get something from somebody or sell something to somebody. That's just not who I am. It's a personal relationship.
It's a very and it's so refreshing. It's a very human approach. I mean, you use the word energy. You didn't use the word humanity, but the connection is a human connection. And generally people that are as well connected as you are, it's a lot of transactional stuff. And in your world, from what I'm getting from you, what I've learned through our friendship is nothing is a transaction. Everything is a relationship. And how do you teach people that who are transactional or takers in a lot of ways? Is that something you can help people learn about?
I think it's about caring. If people know that you care,
Yeah.
it immediately opens them up to a different conversation. Whether it's the person and you're changing your flight on Air Canada, as I did the other day,
Yeah.
I ended up having a wonderful conversation with the person on the other end of the line. And I think to myself, how many of those conversations, if they have 10 conversations, 100 conversations in a day, how many are angry and hostile, and how many are friendly and there's immense gratitude? And so if I can be in that small category of immense gratitude and friendly, I'd rather be that. Or when I go into a nice restaurant and you're sitting at the table and the waiter comes over, the sommelier comes over, it's an immediate engagement that it's going to change the complexion of their night, my night, our guests' night, because then all of a sudden, because this is their life, this is their job, this is their
Yeah.
career. And I want them to enjoy the experience as much as I enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
The other night we were at a place and the sommelier is like, "Oh my God, I've never seen this wine. I've heard about this wine. It's amazing. I've read about it." And I spend my whole life around wine. And I'm like, then there is an absolute 100% certainty that you're going to be pouring yourself some of this and you're going to enjoy it. You're going to give us your impressions of this wine and how it made you feel. And it changes everything. And it's for no other reason than when that person goes home and their head hits the pillow, I want them to think, you know what, I had a great day today. Maybe they don't even remember why they had a great day, but it was a way better day than had I come in and bullied them and said, "Hey, you know what, you're the waiter, I'm whatever, the guest, and here's what I demand." And I've seen that over and over and over. And I've actually had my friends do it, and I have to course correct for them and then, get them back. So it's just, again, I want every human being that I come in touch with, I want them to feel special. I want them to feel good. I want them to feel respected and appreciated. And it doesn't matter what level, it doesn't matter if it's at the checkout at the grocery store. I want every single personal contact to have that level of thoughtfulness and joy.
You bring up the Maya Angelou quote, right? That says it's about how you make people feel, right? It's not what you say, it's how you make people feel. And that intentionality is really rare. So you're role modeling a behavior that I think a lot of leaders could really emulate and say, you know what, when I'm talking to the grocery store clerk or I'm talking to Getty Lee, it doesn't change how I talk to them. And that's so I wanted to just
Yeah.
congratulate you for that because I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't want to dive too deeply into your career because we could literally talk about that for 6 hours. But you've had a career where you built some pretty substantial businesses in the financial services, Assante, CI, we can go on and on and on. Um, was there a seminal moment when you were building something that went, holy crap, look at where we are, look at what we've done, or it projected you forward or propelled you forward to something bigger and better in your world? Was there one of those moments you can think about?
A seminal moment. I would tell you that the thing that drove me philosophically in every business that I was building before I got into turnarounds, every single company was about building wealth and prosperity for Canadian families. That was my life mission. That was my corporate mission. That was that's why I thought I was kind of put here on earth, was to create more wealth and prosperity for Canadian families, because I saw a lot of families, because I grew up with immigrant parents. We had no money. My father worked 2 and 3 jobs and did the very best that he could for us. And I thought, if there was an opportunity, and I'd been given the opportunity not only through my education but also with my first and second roles, to learn how to manage wealth. I thought if I could do that at scale, that would change the trajectory of our country. 70% of marriages break up because of financial difficulties. And I thought that if I could get out in front of that, and if you looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you took care of those basic needs, and then you got a family to a level of financial security, confidence, support, then the unit stays together. Then the kids are getting better access to sports and other recreation, dance, schools, university or college. Then as you go up the pyramid, then the family starts to look at how can we impact the community through our church, through our temple, through our financial and philanthropy. And I just thought, can I make Canada, my small world, a better place by creating that wealth and prosperity? So from Fidelity to GT Global, which is Invesco Trimark now, Synergy, all of those businesses were about doing really highly creative things that didn't exist in this country. And I was the first to do those things so that I could get out in front of and really change the trajectory of how money was invested in Canada. And by being first and hiring the very, very best, we were able to put great numbers up on the board. And what that meant was every investor in our funds did really, really well. We did things that were super creative, super cool, risky, a little bit, when you're on the leading edge, you're taking big risks. But I didn't think those risks were not without the right construct of risk control and risk management. And at the end of the day, we did make a lot of money for a lot of people, and that brought me great joy. And so I was able to live the mission. And when things got really bad, Alan, I used to travel around the country. I used to go from city to city and talk to investors. And if I couldn't get to a certain place, then I would host conference calls with them long before there was Zoom. Like in the financial crisis 08-09, every single week, I would have a portfolio manager on a call with our top financial advisors and if need be with their clients. Or I would fly to North Bay, or I would fly to Vancouver and I would host an event where I could walk them through what the landscape looked like, because I had greater proximity to those portfolio managers, to the finance minister, to the leadership. So those were all things that were really important.
So, and you've had, by all measures, incredible success, right? So by every metric possibly, your family, your kids, your businesses, your wealth, all of those things are positive. But there must have been some moments that were not so fun.
Oh yeah.
Can you share one that you don't mind sharing publicly?
I think the one, well, there's quite a few. So let's start with it's really hard. But the major challenges, I would say my biggest successes, as I said earlier, hiring incredible talents, people that are egoless, super talented. Where I've messed up is when I get the people thing wrong. If I hire somebody, and I've done this a couple times for their credentials, oh my God, the guy's got a PhD, he's a CFA, he's got all this stuff, and all these characteristics, and I miss the integrity piece. I miss the deep values. Yeah. They can corrupt the culture, and that's the point. When I have that selfishness, ego that creeps into a culture that I'm leading, that kind of takes it and corrupts it to a point that there's infighting and conflict, and then I have to be smart enough and swift enough to cut it back out. It's like cancer. You need to cut that out so that you can heal and move forward. And so that's where I've really messed up in the past is getting the people thing wrong. Now, I don't get it wrong too often because I commonly bring my leadership team into those decisions. If I'm hiring C-suite, I want C-suite in the room. I want everybody to have a voice so that they're all choosing another member of the team, because those meetings become quite intimate. You spend, and this is why I have what I call my no shithead rule. If you're going to spend 12, 14 hours a day, startups are hard and they're long and they're not five days a week, 9 to 5. They are, 6, 7 in the morning until 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I always said, if I'm going to work really hard with people, if we're going to spend a disproportionate amount of my time, our time together, I got to love them. I got to respect them. I got to want to be in the room with them, going through all these challenges so that we can get to that nirvana moment. And truly, if I like, trust, and respect everybody on my team, that's going to be a painless, it's not going to feel like work. Yeah. If you have those people that creep into the culture that are challenging it and they're making your life so miserable that you just don't want to be there, then it's your job to cut that out. And so for me, I found that having those people in my life. I still see my leadership teams. Believe it or not, I'm hosting one of my old leadership teams Wednesday night.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Uh, I
See,
love it because it's about people, and when they're that good, when they're that successful, when you've gone through so much difficulty yet had so much success, you celebrate and you have these wonderful moments. Like that was one of my other things. I always celebrate milestones. I set lofty goals. I go out, 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, and then we set targets along the way. And then every time we hit a milestone, we celebrate the crap out of it. Because people love to celebrate. People love to party. People love to feel that they're accomplishing success. And if you don't find that moment to really crystallize that success with a celebration, then it's just like, okay, you don't really care. I care. And I want that celebration. And they're the ones who are doing the work. They're the ones who are making me look good. They're the ones who are helping us achieve the mission. So I want them to feel that they're celebrated, they're supported, they have all the tools, and I'm there. Because that's really ultimately what you are. You're a guide, you're an advisor, you're a coach. You're not really, the guy on the business card that says CEO. Mostly it's servant leadership.
But so you've nailed it and you say it so easily, but in the experience of working with, close to 600 CEOs, they all talk a good game, but living the game is different than talking a good game, right? And so you
Yeah.
embody, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up, but I'm listening to you and I'm kind of hearing good to great in my background going, I got to get the mission vision right. I got to get the people on the bus right. I got to treat them really, really well. I got to compensate them really well, but I got to live my values really, really well. I mean, those are the basic tenets of any business. But why do leaders go off of the playbook, which sounds so easy when you put it on paper, but it's not as easy to execute, Joe? So tell me about why you and not others that have been able to be successful in this world.
I do think it comes down to humility
Mm,
and showing people how much you care. People don't talk about that. They don't talk like that in leadership.
yeah.
I find that if you embody that humility and that caring and that you share openly both the good things and the bad things, and you make yourself a little bit vulnerable, then there's that trust. Come full circle to how do you embody and engender trust. It's really about opening yourself up and empowering people, but also being honest with people when things get terribly hard. And you show that side, you show that vulnerability. So where do people go wrong? I think historically is they think it's all about them. They think that they've got the title, they're getting the big pay package, they've got the equity, so they're in control. I don't think it's about control. I think it's about building something really meaningful with a team of people that you care about, and you go out and you live the mission, and you think about it all the time. Like I have to be honest, like I don't sleep as well when I'm leading an organization.
Sure.
And I have a notepad beside my bed and a light up pen so I don't annoy the heck out of my wife. And I get ideas at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I write them down. And if I can commit them to paper, there's a very good chance I'm going to get back to sleep. And on the off chance that I don't do that, I roll around, or if the light isn't working on my pen and I just scribble it down and I can't read what I wrote the next morning, then it's driving me crazy. So for me, it's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And even though like I celebrate family, I put my family first in almost all decisions, because again, that's you can do both. You can be a great spouse, you can be a great parent, you can be emotive and loving and caring for your family, and I think be an effective leader. And if people understand that you are both, and they recognize when there's a rugby tournament and you have to be there, people will cover for you.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you're going down to Vegas and doing a boys trip. You're going to your son's rugby game. You're going to, your wife's got she's on the board of something, and you got to be at a special function. I want to be there for that. That's about trust and support and partnership. So
What's beautiful about thinking about this, typically when CEOs leave a job, they leave behind the relationships that they had inside that company. Oftentimes they realize, oh my God, they only liked me because I was the boss. Well, clearly, when you do it right like you do, you're hosting, you have no reason to do that other than celebration, connection, and that's why your reputation is so positive because those people will follow you into the earth, won't they? Because of your lead. I don't know of anybody that hosts an X company when there's no benefit for them other than I just want to show you guys I still care about you. Like that, Joe. I'm not trying to blow smoke up, but I've talked to a lot of CEOs in my life. I've never heard that before. And the reason I
well,
want to
thank you.
yeah, the reason I
Yeah,
just want to
listen,
illustrate it before I ask the question is because
yeah,
my entire world is about people's reputation. That's what I try to get people to understand. Every action you take, every moment, every interaction is an opportunity to increase or reduce your reputation. And so and yours
yeah.
may not be intentional, but it turns out to be intentional. And that's why you do that. So my question for you is, how did you pull that together? And how did you bring that team together to have a dinner and they accepted without even thinking about it? Tell me about that.
Well, again, it's never for me. It's never been about just the business. And to your earlier question about how is it that you haven't separated who you are as a human being from who you are as a parent, who you are as a CEO? For me, they were always intertwined. I've had people tell me that they put on a suit of armor when they go down to Bay Street,
Right.
and that's their persona.
Yeah.
And then when they get home, they're this other persona. For me, if I am that leader, if I am that servant leader, if I am that person of deep values, character, integrity, drive, ambition, and never ask anybody to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself, that I think has to translate across all aspects of your being. And so when I go out with my team from 25 years ago, that group, we still have that special bond from that important period of our lives. And they've all moved on and done great things in their own right, but it's so exciting to see them. The ones that I'm bringing together on Wednesday night, the last time, like I would do it consistently every number of months or whatever. But I haven't led that organization since 2010. And yet we still keep in touch because it was a very powerful, important period. We were turning around a really broken company. And we were able to make it happen. We turned a dog's breakfast into a thing of beauty and then an accelerating rocket ship. And that made me very proud and very happy. And I got tons of accolades as a result. But I wanted it always to be shared. Like we had a leadership team that would come together every Monday morning, and it was beautiful, like the caring, the sharing. And so, when you go through that kind of a very deep, challenging, gut-wrenchingly difficult experience, I think I was the seventh CEO that they'd had in 5 years.
Wow.
And they kept stubbing their toe, to be polite. And then we were able to make it into something really beautiful and special. You don't share that and then say, okay, it's done, got paid, let's go, let's move on.
Yeah.
Those people still matter to me. I remember the one person, my chief operating officer, I brought in from one of the companies we had acquired. And the company wasn't a great company. I won't mention its name. The leadership team all had to go, except for this one jewel of a woman. And I not only identified her as an absolute superstar, I got her to uproot her family from Winnipeg, move them to Toronto to be on my leadership team because I'm just like, this woman is everything.
Yeah.
She is all those values that we've talked about, and the characteristics, and she's going to get stuff done, and she's so thorough, and she understands operations at a level I never could. And so, again, you're going through these experiences with people, and how do you lose touch with that as the human element? And she made me look like a superstar. She made me look like I was really good at running this company. And so I never lose that gratitude. Maybe that's what it is, Alan.
Yeah.
It's this overriding feeling of gratitude. I wake up happy and grateful every day. And then I actually keep a gratitude journal. I think about the people who helped me get to this level.
Yeah.
And that sort of sets my day on the right trajectory.
You know what's interesting is you light up when you talk about people. Strategy, you can talk about it, but it's not the same. When you talk about the people in your life, your family, your wife, your kids, and the people that were in your life that you brought, that just tells you that you can't, if I may use this on this podcast, there's no bullshit there. Like there's no, I'm playing a game so you can look at me and say I'm a really smart guy. It's real because you can't fake that lighting up. So I just wanted to share that with you as a reflection for people listening to this and who are leaders going, people cut through it. People are watching you as a leader. They're watching every move and they can cut through the crap if you're real or not. And when you're real, you'll get the benefit of the doubt when you screw up, don't you?
Inevitably, you do screw up.
You do.
And if people know that you took that decision with the best information that you had, and yet it still turned out not to work or be wrong, people are like, hey, I know that the intention was there. I know that this person, and they do give you that benefit of the doubt in answer to your question. Yes.
I could go on forever. I've got two more questions. I just wanted to go back to the
Please.
startup question for a moment.
Yeah.
You were early on Wealthsimple. You were there at the beginning, and obviously you're right. 80% of startups don't work, and doesn't matter what industry. But what did you see about either the concept or the leader that said, I'm going to make a bet here because I think there's something big here? What was it that we could all learn from?
I would say I'm not even going to talk just about Wealthsimple. I would say there was a period of my life when I had retired early where I had a number of different young entrepreneurs come to my office and ask for advice and coaching and whatnot. And if they embodied character, and I really tried to get to the root of who that human being was, values, integrity. I looked at their history. I looked at their relationship with their parents, their family, believe it or not. I looked at how they were as a student, how they had been in business up to that point. I look at the team they surrounded themselves with. And then I looked at the cap table. I looked at where the money was coming from. Was it smart money or not? And so whether it was Michael Katchen at Wealthsimple or Daniel Eberhard at Coho or Jordan Jacobs at Layer 6 or James Rockwood at Cap Intel, across that spectrum, a lot of venture capital people, angels and VCs, they spray and pray. They have 50 companies, 25, 50,000 in each one. Yeah. I choose very specifically. I choose based on to be somewhat, I hope this doesn't sound too arrogant. I'm really looking for the 25 to 35-year-old me, somebody who is so driven, so motivated, and not let anybody down. I had one CEO that I was working with who things weren't going well at the company, and he didn't want to say anything to me, and he'd just gotten married, and he was going to take a second job. And I found out. And I was like, I phoned him. I don't want to use his name because he'd be embarrassed. But I said, this is what I understand. You have me as an advisor. I wish you had come to me and told me because I will help you find money. You can't divert your attention away from this business, not because you can't accomplish it. It's not that I don't want you to have capital. I just want you to stay focused on the mission and leave the fundraising and all the other stuff to me. And so that's what we did. But this is how, again, when you have these people of character and integrity, they don't want to let anybody down. They don't want to fail. They don't want to fail the families of the people that work for them. They don't want to fail the investors who've given over millions of dollars of investment capital. And those are the people that I identify. And the reason I have an 80 plus success rate versus an 80 plus failure rate is because that's what I identify. And if you take all of those founders across the spectrum of the companies that I've worked with, they all look and sound like that, but in their own unique way. And the one time I made a mistake, I thought the guy had all those things, and I was wrong. And I gave him three chances. And then after, lying, whatever you want to call it, I finally had to replace him. I gave him every opportunity, but then I said, I got to go find a new CEO, and you just can't be around this company. You can't do the things that you've done, and you're lacking integrity. And I wish I'd seen it. I missed it somehow.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, there's no such thing as perfection in leadership, but there is making a right decision once you've made the wrong decision. So,
Yeah.
that's all cool. Listen, my last question, and I think I could talk to you forever. So this is, but we only have so much time. Um, YPO. So let's talk
Yeah.
about your journey in YPO. What's the biggest surprise in leadership that you found in YPO, and the biggest lesson? Maybe they're the same thing, but what would that
Um,
be?
I've really loved YPO. It's been very deep, meaningful, personal relationships with my forum. And we are very unique, I'm told, in that we do a lot of our work non directly in forum with our spouses.
Yeah.
And our holiday party, we go on a forum retreat with spouses, and that sort of has changed not only the complexion and the nature of the relationships that we have and the sharing that we have. We also get to that level of support and family that is much more meaningful and much deeper. And as an example, Larissa and I are going to host our forum and their families in July at our cottage on a Sunday afternoon, so people and their kids can come. And I just think when you pour yourself into something, it's nice to really see all elements of that leader, all who they are as like ridiculously talented CEOs, but great spouses and great parents, because you hear about their kids all the time. Like, for instance, last holiday season, we had it at somebody's house, and they had invited their kids, and they said, do you mind if our kids show up? It changed the nature and the complexion of that dinner that evening. And it was super special. And we got to know their children on a level that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And I think they had a remarkable time. For, these kids were like 19 and 23 or 24. Just, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful sharing. So I guess I've loved the community. I've loved the sharing. I love the helping, because I really do like working with people and helping people. I've helped people through crises. And so that was good for me. And people have helped me through tricky periods of my life and given me good counsel. But then I think when I became a board member and ultimately board chair, learning officer and board chair, when I saw that there were some struggles, when I saw that there were some things that weren't lining up, I actually leaned in. I maybe overdid it. I leaned in like it was one of my 4 turnarounds. And I said, how can I make this special the way that it was special? So I actually went, Alan, to 10 people that had left YPO, and I said, help me understand, when was it the most special? When did it really impact you in the most important way? And what were your best memories? And what made you stop loving it? And then I went to people who were on the bubble. And I said, if I can recreate those experiences, if I can help make it that special again, would you rejoin, or would you stop thinking about maybe leaving? And so I tried to lean in, and I tried to open up opportunities that weren't otherwise there. And it gave me such a sense of joy and gratitude, and I have to say it almost feels selfish because I've had so much beautiful, heartfelt, positive feedback from people
Of course.
that, and people that, what other people would consider to be tough nuts, if you will. And they're like, I just want you to know this is how I feel. I don't want to say because it sounds egoic, but they say things that I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it makes me well up because they have such a sense of gratitude, and it fills me up. It fills my heart with joy. And so, or as my kids used to say, it fills their bucket. So it fills my bucket. And so I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And as I come to the end, I'm actually going to do a video sharing those feelings with YPO because I think it gave me more than I ever gave it. And that's the thing. I feel selfish and I feel like joy. So anyway, I hope this is a goofy thing to talk about on a podcast. Sorry, man. But
Dude, is it, you know why it's beautiful? And we're going to end on this is that your gratitude and your caring about others comes through. Here's what people don't realize. We pay membership dues and we spend time trying to help other people have gratitude and have great experiences. And you're sitting there going, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Because when you are a giver, as you are, right, you get pleasure out of other people feeling great and experiencing and
uh-huh.
learning and growing and connecting and all the things that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, which is about how you lead. And when people realize that you can only lead without, you're leading without authority. You're leading really,
Yeah, fair.
leading other
But
leaders. It's the most magical experience ever.
and when I can create one of those truly only in YPO experiences, those truly magical moments,
Yeah.
nobody knows it's coming. And yet when it happens, and Sarah McLachlan walked out on that stage in the
Okay.
vineyard,
Yeah.
and or the other night when Rain Maida and Chantel did their duet, I didn't tell anyone.
It was
And
awesome.
yet I could tell, I could feel the energy. Or with the CEO of Loblaws a few weeks ago, that guy could not have been more humble, down to earth, talking about his story, and yet all these CEOs are lapping it up. And
Yeah.
so, for me to be in a position to share those moments, to share those experiences that people are going to reflect on in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, bringing, Christian Weedbrook, the CEO of Xanadu, which is a quantum computing company, that quantum isn't even real for people, but they've had it. So as they continue to evolve and become real, the way that artificial intelligence, when we hosted that event, has come real, I think people are going to reflect on that. That's what makes it very special to me, is we've been able to share insights that make our friends better leaders, better CEOs, better spouses, better parents, better members of the community, and better prepared for life. Well, you can't beat that. And so again, selfishly, that gives me joy, and that's what I'm grateful for.
So, dude, you've given me a lot of joy. I didn't know where this would go today. And like you, sometimes it's just about great people getting together and having great conversations. Yeah, you've filled us up today. You filled our bucket, Joe, with some great real and not platitudes, just stuff you've lived every single day. And on behalf of our audience and our company, Strata Originals, I just want to thank you for doing that. And on behalf of me personally, as a friend, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and spend time and share your wisdom with everybody. So, Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you. I was honored to be part of this.